Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 1st chapter, text number 24. Atha chaduhitaram prajapater Vishwakarmana upayeme barhishmatim Namatasyam uhavava atmajan Atmasamana Shila Gunakarma Rupa Viryodaran Dashabhavayam Rupa Viryodaran Dashabhavayam Babhuva Kanyanchaya Viyasim Urjaswatim Nama. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Thereafter, Maharaja Priyavrata married Bharishmati, the daughter of the Prajapati named Vishwakarma. In her, he begot 10 sons equal to him in beauty, character, magnanimity and other qualities. He also begot a daughter, the youngest of all, named Urjaswati. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj Priyavrata not only carried out the order of Lord Brahma by accepting the duties of government, but also married Bharishmati, the daughter of Vishwakarma, one of the Prajapatis. Since Maharaj Priyavrata was fully trained in transcendental knowledge, he could have returned home and conducted the business of government as a brahmachari. Instead, however, when he returned to household life, he accepted a wife also. The principle is that when one becomes a grahastha, he must live perfectly in that order, which means he must live peacefully with a wife and children. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's first wife died, his mother requested him to marry for a second time. He was 20 years old and was going to take sannyasa at the age of 24. Yet, by the request of his mother, he married. As long as I am in household life, he told his mother, I must have a wife. For household life does not mean staying in a house. Real household life means living in a house with a wife. 3 words in this verse are very significant. Ha, Vava. These words are used to express wonder. Priyavrata Maharaja had taken a vow of renunciation, but accepting a wife and begetting children have nothing to do with the path of renunciation. These are activities on the path of enjoyment. It was a source of great wonder, therefore, that Priyavrata Maharaja, who had followed the path of renunciation, had now accepted the path of enjoyment. Sometimes we are criticized because, although I am a sannyasi, I have taken part in the marriage ceremonies of my disciples. It must be explained, however, that since we have started a Krishna conscious society, and since a human society must also have ideal marriages, to correctly establish an ideal society, we must take part in marrying some of its members, although we have taken to the path of renunciation. This may be astonishing to persons who are not very interested in establishing Devi Varnashrama, the transcendental system of 4 social orders and 4 spiritual orders. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, however, wanted to re-establish Devi Varnashrama. In Deva Varnashrama, there cannot be acknowledgement of social status according to birthright, because in Bhagavad Gita it is said that the determining considerations are guna and karma, one's qualities and work. It is this Deva Varnashrama that should be established all over the world to continue a perfect society for Krishna consciousness. This may be astonishing to foolish critics, but it is one of the functions of a Krishna conscious society. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport.
Upayeme, Upayama is marriage. Upayeme, he married. Whom did he marry? Barhishmatim Nama, a woman, Nama, by name Barhishmati. And who is she? Prajapatir Vishwakarmana Duhitaram. She was the daughter, Duhitaram, of Vishwakarmana. And who is Vishwakarmana? Prajapatir Vishwakarmana. Prajapati Vishwakarmana's Vishwakarma's daughter duhitaram upayeme barhishmatim nama. And tasyam, in her, uhavava. Uhavava, Prabhupada has explained, to express wonder. What do we say when we want to express wonder? Uhavava. Uhavava. And then what did he do after marriage? In her, uhavava, atmajan. And he had sons, atmasamana. And they were like him. In what? In Shila, character. Guna, in qualities. In karma, activities. In rupa, beauty. Virya, prowess. Udaran, magnanimity. Dasha bhavayam bhabuva. And how many sons he had? Dasha, 10 sons. Bhavayam bhabuva, he begot. Only sons he had? No. Kanyamcha, he also had one daughter. And who was she? When was she born? Yaviyasim, she was the youngest of all. And what was her name? Urjaswatim nama, by name Urjaswati. Therefore, Maharaj Priyavrata married Upayeme Barhishmatim Nama, the daughter of the Prajapati named Vishwakarma. Prajapatir Vishwakarmana Duhitaram. In her, Tasyam, he begot 10 sons. Dasha Bhavayam Bhavuva, Dasha Atmajan Bhavayam Bhavuva. And how are they? Equal to him, Atma Samana, in beauty, character, magnanimity, and other qualities. Shila, Guna, Karma, Rupa, Virya, Udaran. He also begot a daughter, Kanyamcha, the youngest of all, Yaviyasim, named Urjaswati, Urjaswati Nama. And Srila Prabhupada has mentioned some very wonderful things in the purport. Why did he marry? He only got an order to go and rule. He should have just gone and ruled as a brahmachari. So the idea is that a brahmachari lives in the teacher's gurukula, but now he has returned home. And when he returns home, he becomes a householder and he must adopt other aspects of a householder life. Here, Prabhupada has mentioned. The principle is that when one becomes a grihastha, he must live perfectly in that order. In that order, whatever needs to be done, he has to do that. If someone is a brahmachari, in that order, what has to be done should be done. Somebody is a grihastha, what has to be done in that order should be done. So in every ashrama, in every varna, one has to do what has to be done in that order. That is the principle. And in order to comply with that principle, respect that principle, he not only became a grihastha, he not only went home, he became grihastha. And a grihastha means he must have wife and children. And so he had wife and children. And Prabhupada is giving the example when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, when he was at home, he was married. And then his wife passed away accidentally. And then his mother requested, please marry again. And he accepted. And he married. And he was only 20 years. And in 4 years, he was going to take sannyas. Nevertheless, when I'm a householder, I will live like a householder, he said. And he married. So we can see how great regard and respect for all these orders and following what is expected of somebody in that order. This is Vedic culture. This is very strictly followed. And hence, Prabhupada is saying here that Maharaj Priyavrata, who was actually following the path of renunciation, now he has become emperor, he has married, he has got 10 children, he has got a daughter. Uhavava, a wonder, an expression of wonder. And then Srila Prabhupada is saying, if someone says, like Shukadeva Goswami has said, Uhavava, for Priyavrata, for what he did. Now let us take Prabhupada's example, and he was a sannyasi. A sannyasi has got nothing to do with marriage. Marriage is something to do on the path of enjoyment, pravritti marga, not on the path of renunciation. And here is a sannyasi, he is participating in a marriage ceremony of his disciples. What should we say? Uhavava, expression of wonder. And so Srila Prabhupada is saying it has to be explained. So Prabhupada is giving an explanation. Why? I am a sannyasi, I am taking part in this. I am a sannyasi, I have taken part in the marriage ceremonies of my disciples. It must be explained. That we have started a Krishna conscious society. And since a human society must also have ideal marriages, to correctly establish an ideal society, we must take part in marrying some of its members, although we have taken to the path of renunciation. And this may be astonishing to persons who are not very interested in establishing Daiva Varnashrama, the transcendental system of 4 social orders and 4 spiritual orders. Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, however, wanted to re-establish Daiva Varnashrama. See the wonderful parallel. Priyavrata, he became emperor, he became householder, he became a husband, he had wife, he had children, he had a daughter. For what? Why did he do all that? Manavardhano Mahatam, on the order of superior. Now look at Srila Prabhupada. He is a sannyasi. He started a Krishna consciousness society, and then he is engaging his disciples to get married, and he is participating in a marriage ceremony. Why is he doing all of this? He wants to establish Daiva Varnashrama system in a Krishna conscious society. Why is he doing all this? On the order of his spiritual master, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati. Mahatam Manavardhano. In order to respect the order of my superiors, he did that. And hence we may say, Uhavava. What a surprising thing. So, Srila Prabhupada did these things, and then in the end Prabhupada says, this may be astonishing, but it is one of the functions of a Krishna conscious society. So Prabhupada coming to this world and establishing Krishna consciousness movement, which has spread all over the world, which was the desire of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which was the desire of expressed in the Shastras, that bhakti will spread all over the world. This was actually not an ordinary event. It was an extraordinary event. So all the things that Srila Prabhupada was doing was not ordinary. It was of that scale. Just like Srimad Bhagavatam records many examples of great devotees and what they did. And it is recording Priyavrata Maharaj, what he did. how he was on the path of renunciation, how he, on the order of his superiors, he became an emperor. All that is being described in the Bhagavatam. Of that order, of that magnitude, of that scale is the activities of Srila Prabhupada also. When Prabhupada was in New York in the very early days, Prabhupada was in lower Manhattan. Manhattan is a long peninsula, land on the one side and river and ocean on the three sides. So it's called Upper Manhattan, uptown, midtown, downtown. So mostly Prabhupada was in the downtown. And downtown had all these young men, so known as hippies of those days. And the respectable people lived in midtown and uptown. So Srila Prabhupada had one disciple, Rai Rama Das, and he had a discussion with Srila Prabhupada. So we are mostly in downtown, and we have all these hippies and young people. They are coming and practicing. Why don't we go to uptown or midtown and there have a program? There we will get more sophisticated people and high class people and all that. So Prabhupada said, okay. So, and devotees didn't have much money those days. So Rai Ramadas hired a hall, a very prestigious hall called Judson Hall. It was next to another very prestigious hall called the Carnegie Hall. So it was all in that part of the city where, big people, respectable people all gather there. And then, so they had a program and they printed a flyer and they distributed that in the bookstores so that, somebody coming to a bookstore may buy a book, maybe a reader, that kind of a person may want to hear about Prabhupada, author, come from India. That was a thought. So they distributed flyers. And then they also went around in the streets and distributing flyers and all that. And then on that evening, devotees were all anticipating what is going to happen. They had paid $200 for the renting that for one evening. It was a lot of money. And then Srila Prabhupada came, and it was a big hall, auditorium, can hold hundreds of people. But only 7 people turned up. So Prabhupada was on the stage, and then the devotees came and asked, Swamiji, shall we call it off? Can we cancel the program? Not many people have come, only 7 people spread over. So Prabhupada said, no, we will chant, we will have class. And then Prabhupada had full chanting and he had full class. And then some 1 or 2 questions came. Prabhupada answered. And then in the end, once again, the devotees were feeling very sorry. And then they told, and then Rai Rama also said, Swamiji, we are very sorry. No one came. And it was such a flop, failure. So Prabhupada was surprised. He said, what? No one came? Didn't you see Narada Muni? Didn't you see Lord Brahma? When Hare Krishna mantra kirtan is happening, chanting is happening, even devatas come. And Narada, Lord Brahma, they all had come. So the devotees were surprised to hear that. And there are a few more occasions like this when Srila Prabhupada was suddenly found laughing. And then devotees asked Prabhupada, why were you laughing in the middle of the kirtan? So Prabhupada said, Narada Muni had come to the kirtan and he was laughing how these Yavanas, Mlechas, they are chanting Hare Krishna. And he was laughing. So you can imagine when Srila Prabhupada was doing such a pure devotee, chanting, and Devatas, Narada, Brahma, they were coming and participating and they were wondering what is going on. And they must have said, ooh, hava. What a wonder. Who are these Yavanas? They are chanting and doing kirtan like that. So, there is a possibility, because Bhagavatam is nothing but recounting of the great activities of great devotees. There's very much a possibility in future or in some other universe, Bhagavatam, which is compiled in some other universe by a Vyasadeva of that universe, whatever the Lord's arrangement, there is very much possibility Srila Prabhupada's Leela will be described just like Priyavrata Maharaj's Leela is described in the Bhagavatam, describing all the things that he did and express, ooh, havava, what is going on? Just like, you see, it is a Vedic injunction that a sannyasi cannot cross the ocean, cannot go out of India. That was the understanding. I don't know if you are all familiar. Some years ago, one of the Madhva sannyasis, he crossed the ocean and went to America. And he came back. When he came back, there was a big controversy among the Madhva scholars, Madhva sannyasis. He has violated. Whether he can be accepted back as a proper sannyasi, he can be allowed to remain in the pita, in that seat of revered seat that Madhvacharya has created. And he has gone away and he has violated a Vedic injunction. As a sannyasi, he had crossed the ocean. And whether he can be allowed to worship Krishna at the famous Udupi temple. There was a raging controversy about this. Media was carrying, televisions were carrying, and he was giving statements. There were counter statements. There were some people supporting him. Just see how it is. So it's a very serious thing, taken very seriously. And his defense was, no, you see, I went. I didn't go alone. I had, actually, when sannyasis, Madhva sannyasis, when they travel, they're very strict. It is expected that there is one more assistant who goes with him. And one or two or three, a few scholars go with him, because they are supposed to be always discussing tattva every day, engage in discussing the shastras. There should be scholars. And of course, minimum, they should have one person to cook for them, because they cannot cook from somebody else's cooking. They cannot eat that food. These are the strict. So his defense was, I didn't go alone. I went with scholars. I also had a cook. And everywhere I went to Madhva's families. I didn't go anywhere else. And in those houses, my servant was cooking for me. You see, all these arguments, this was his defense. From this we can make out how the culture and the rules are all like that. On the other hand, Srila Prabhupada went alone. Right? And he went alone. And he didn't go, there was no Gaudiya Vaishnavas waiting to receive him like that. You see, what was the situation? And Prabhupada didn't go with some Gaudiya Vaishnava scholars with him, assistant cooking for him. Nothing. He went alone. What an incredible situation this is. Such an unprecedented thing. Definitely this is hava moment. What is this happening? You see? Then Srila Prabhupada, we know, first initially he went to the house of Gopal Agarwal, who was an Indian from Agra, but he was married to an American, Sally Agarwal. And Prabhupada stayed in their house for 21 days, for 3 weeks. And so Prabhupada would cook in their house. And that house, they were cooking meat. I don't think Prabhupada asked, please bring cow dung, I want to wash your pots. And all those kind of things. I don't think such things were possible. Prabhupada would cook, not only for himself, for all of them. And for Gopal Agarwal coming from India, going there and missing roti dal sabji, he was very happy to have Prabhupada cook roti dal sabji and rice and all of that. He was very happy to have Swamiji cook all these things. And Prabhupada would cook, serve the lunch, he also would have, and then he would return. He was staying in another building, little far away. And then he would come back. Initially, few days, Prabhupada stayed in that house itself. And there was no extra room. They were not very rich people. They had children. And Prabhupada was living in the living room, sleeping on the sofa. Look at the situation Prabhupada was in. And then they shifted him to another house, YMCA hostel. And Prabhupada would stay and he would come back. And every evening he would come back. And then Gopal and Sally would invite a few friends, neighbors. And then Prabhupada was talking to them. Philosophy, why he has come from India, who is Krishna, what is karma, and all those kind of things. And then they would talk, chat like that till about 9 o'clock, 9:30. And then Prabhupada would return. Gopal or Sally would drop him in the car. So this was the practice. So one day, unusually, Prabhupada came a little early to the house. And Sally was surprised that Swami has come early. And she opened the door and brought him into the living room. But she said, Swamiji, I'm very sorry. Maybe the smell is unbearable. Just because she had cooked meat. You can imagine for a sannyasi, for a strict, even for us like, ordinary conditioned souls, if there is meat cooking, how unbearable. So Prabhupada simply dismissed it. Don't worry, nothing, not an issue, not an issue. He didn't make an issue of it. Look at the sacrifice of Srila Prabhupada. How much Prabhupada has sacrificed. And later, of course, he was there for some time, and then Prabhupada went to another place in Manhattan. I won't go into those stories, those very interesting stories of Prabhupada going to a place, Dr. Mishra's place, and then he went to another place in lower Manhattan. Dr. Mishra was in uptown, midtown or uptown. So Prabhupada went to downtown in a place called Bowery, and he was sharing one studio apartment with another man. So another American, his name was David, and Prabhupada was sharing with him. And that man, David, they would live in one room and one common bathroom. That was the situation. Prabhupada, elderly sannyasi, pure devotee, author of books, representing Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, sharing with this man who was into LSD and such things. One day he took such an overdose of LSD and he had a drug-induced neurotic breakdown. So he went crazy. He was walking around, round, shouting, screaming, making sounds and all those kind of things. And then came in front of Prabhupada face to face, screaming and shouting. Prabhupada was shocked. What's he going to do? He's going to beat up. He can become violent. He's gone crazy. So Prabhupada, in that kind of a thing was going, because he can take anything. In the kitchen, there is a kitchen, there is knife, they can, what he can do, there are furnitures. Srila Prabhupada is he's a frail, old sannyasi. This young, big American young man, what he can do? So Srila Prabhupada carefully eased himself out, came down 4 floors down and left the loft. And where will he go? He has come out. He thought he can stay in the loft, and he was conducting classes there. And he was thinking, I will convert this loft into a Radha Krishna temple. That was Prabhupada's plan. Everything shattered. Now he is back in the street. All his belongings are also there. Where will he go? Should he walk to Scindia Shipping Company? They'll give him a ticket return. He can come back to India. What will he do? Then he had one more acquaintance, one black American young man. So he goes to his house, and Carl, he welcomes him. He's not very happy, but then Carl, they also there. They were all not rich people. So he also had one simple loft arrangement, and he was living with his wife, a white American woman. And she was not happy to have a Swami in the room, in their house. You know what will happen? Her privacy, and she used to smoke, and she used to eat meat, and they had dog, they had cats, and now a Swami. Look at the situation where how Srila Prabhupada went through all these things. And then Prabhupada says he used to keep his food also in the refrigerator. Maybe Prabhupada would cook little more quantity or leftover. And then once he saw, and Carl had said, no, I'll keep the refrigerator very clean. Once Prabhupada opened the refrigerator, and with his food, there was meat. Carl said, no, Swami, that was actually meant for cats. He gave some excuse like, Prabhupada said, don't worry, don't worry. Look at the situation Prabhupada was in. See, I remember once, few devotees, we had gone from here, 1986 or so. That was the time when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's centenary, 500th anniversary was being celebrated. So we had taken one Prabhupada disciple, Yeshomati Nandan, the temple president of Ahmedabad. So we went to Udupi, and we were talking, and Yeshomati Nandan Prabhu was talking to the sannyasi there. And then he said, you know how ISKCON, we call sannyasis Maharaj. So he said, Maharaj, he was talking in English, and I was translating to Kannada for sannyasi. He said, Maharaj, we have temples all over the world. There are so many Krishna devotees. You must come to our temples and travel from temple to temple and preach about Krishna, Madhvacharya's philosophy in our temples. And so the Madhva sannyasi, he said, oh, is that so? But then, you see, wherever we go, we need well water. Otherwise, we cannot stay there. We have for our bath, for our puja, for our cooking, we need well water. Just see how Madhva sannyasi's considerations are. And look at Srila Prabhupada, the circumstances that he went. Srila Prabhupada, pure devotee. Not just someone sannyasi like that. He is carrying out the Lord's mission. See the contrast? How Vedic tradition, culture, and this, how they would comply with those cultural requirements, and how Srila Prabhupada was on the order of Mahatam Manavardhano, on the order of my superiors, I am doing all this. So how Prabhupada went through all these things. So like this, if we see, there are so many examples of Srila Prabhupada, moments, a cause of wonder, and what was Srila Prabhupada doing. So very, very extraordinary personality, Srila Prabhupada. We must always remember this, and how fortunate we are to be his servants, serving his mission. Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki.